Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm PassioKnit Kelsie. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this double-stranded rib knit beanie. So let's go ahead and get started. For this tutorial, you're going to need 8mm knitting needles. This is a US 11. I would recommend 16-inch circular needles such as these, but just make sure that you have 8mm needles. You can use double-pointed needles or circular needles. Just know that this will be made in the round, okay? You're also going to need a tapestry needle like this to weave in your yarn. You're going to need some scissors, and then we are going to be using worsted weight acrylic yarn, and we're going to be doubling it up. So I would recommend using 2 skeins. That's probably going to be the easiest, but if you only have one, you can just pull from both ends as well. That works. For this hat, I definitely recommend using acrylic yarn or just any yarn that has a little bit of stretch to it. I wouldn't use cotton, but any yarn that has a little bit of stretch and is also a worsted weight yarn should be fine. I am using I Love This yarn. It's 100% acrylic. It's a worsted weight yarn. This specific color is called Parcel and Bow. And we are going to be double stranding the entire hat, okay? So just to get ready, I'm going to have to pull out my end on both of my skeins. I always pull from the center, but that's up to you. So I've got that one and this one. And the whole time we are making this hat, we're going to be holding these 2 strands together and knitting with them as regular just to make a thicker yarn. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to measure out how much yarn we're going to need for our tail. I like to do the long tail cast on method whenever I'm knitting. I'm going to take my needles, I'm going to take my yarn, and I'm going to wrap my yarn around my needles 10 times, okay? So I'm just holding the ends there with my thumb. I'm going to wrap 10 times. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I wrapped the yarn relatively tightly. So now I'll take it off. And that is going to be for 10 stitches. And for this hat, we're going to be casting on 56. So I just want to make it very close to 56. Okay, so our little wrap here was 10. I'll fold it in half. And that's going to be 20 stitches. Fold it in half again. That will give us 30 stitches. Fold it again. 40 stitches. Fold it again. And that's 50 stitches. Fold it one more time, and that'll give us 60. And like I said, we're going to be casting on 56, so that should be enough, plus a little bit extra. So I'm going to go ahead and hold it right here, and this is where I'm going to make my slip knot. So I have this tail end right here, and then I have my slip knot, and then these are still connected to my skeins, okay? I'm going to slip in my needle to my slip knot. I'm going to tighten it up a little bit. We want it to be loose enough to where it still can slide up and down our needle very easily, but not super loose to where it's falling off, okay? For the long tail cast on method, I'm going to want to take my pointer finger and my thumb and hold them together like this. I'm going to put them through my yarn. This side is still attached to my skeins, and this side is the end that I have. So I'm going to take my finger and my thumb, put them right through there, and kind of separate them. With the rest of my hand, I'm going to grab all the yarn that is left out. So everything. And then at this point, I will turn my hand so that it's facing up towards me, okay? Now I want to cast on my stitches, so I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to go towards my thumb, and I'm going to pick up the outside yarn and put that on my needle. I'm going to take my needle over towards my pointer finger, and I'm going to pick up the inside most yarn, which is this one right here, I'm going to wrap that around my needle, and then going to come back through this hole that we've created with our thumb, just like that. At this point, I'm going to drop my thumb, and that's going to make a loop. I'm going to take my thumb and put it back in position, and see how that tightened up that bottom loop there. Don't want it to be super tight, just comfortable. And that is how you cast on your stitches. So I'm just going to do that a total of 56 times. I have 2 right now. We have our slip stitch, that counts as our first stitch, and we have the second stitch that we just put on. So I have 2, and I need 54 more to make 56 stitches. So once again, I'm going to go under my outside most yarn on my thumb. I'm going to pick up my closest yarn on my pointer finger. I'm going to go through the hole on my thumb, drop my thumb, pick up the yarn again, pull it tight, and that is going to close up that yarn that we just made, okay? So I'm going to do this until I have 56 stitches on my needles. Okay, so I just finished doing that. I have 56 stitches on my needles here. See all the way across here. This is how much yarn I had left over on my end. So now I want to start knitting in the round. In your right hand is going to be the side where your yarn is still connected, and your left hand is going to be the side where we started casting on, okay? Whenever you start your cast on, you want to make sure that none of your stitches are twisted or anything like that. So you see how the end is on the inside all the way around. This is what it looks like if it's not twisted. If it is twisted, it's going to look something like this. See how I'm following my end, but now it's not on the bottom. It has twisted around. It's going like this, and it's coming back. So I just want to look at my stitches, make sure they're all twisted so that the bottom of our stitches are all facing the same direction, okay? Now to make this hat, we are going to need a purl stitch and a knit stitch. At the beginning of my round, I want to go ahead and put a stitch marker onto my needles. You can use anything really. I have these little round stitch markers. You could use extra yarn that you have laying around, just whatever you've got. And then we're going to start our row with a knit stitch. So I'm going to go in through the front. I'm going to wrap my yarn around my needle, and then I'll pull it through. The next one we're going to do is a purl stitch. So I'm going to move my yarn to the front of my work. I'm going to take my needle and put it through the front of my stitch like that. And then the way that I do my purls is I hold my yarn in between my needles like this, and then I'll grab it with my needle and pull it through to the back like that. And then these 2 stitches are just going to repeat all the way around. So we're going to go knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, so on and so forth. So I'll do my next stitch as a knit stitch. After that is a purl. Next is another knit stitch. Next is a purl stitch. And like I said, this is just going to repeat all the way around, so go ahead and do that. When you get back around to your stitch marker, the last stitch that you do should be a purl stitch. If it's not a purl stitch, then you either cast it on the wrong number of stitches or you messed up the pattern somewhere going around. Usually it's just like I did 2 knits next to each other somewhere or 2 purls next to each other somewhere, so I would just go through and make sure that everything is set. But from here, we're going to continue on. Every row is going to be the same. So on top of my knit stitches, I'm going to do another knit stitch. On top of my purl stitches, I'm going to do another purl stitch. And that is going to repeat all the way around. I am going to show you something about my purls because apparently I do them in a weird way. What I do is called a Eastern European purl, I believe, but what I do is I work my purl from the back loop like this. So I go up through the back loop and then I just do my purl like regular. You don't have to do it this way, obviously. If you just want to purl in the way that you regularly purl, I would suggest to do that, okay? So I'm just going to continue with the pattern of knitting on my knit stitches and purling on my purl stitches all the way around until I get back to the first row. Every row is going to be exactly the same. We're just going to be knitting and purling and knitting and purling and knitting and purling. And we're going to continue every round until our hat is measuring 11.5 inches, okay? And I am making this for kind of like an adult women's size. I have made this hat before in a children's size, and I stopped where the hat was 10 inches long. I cast on the same amount of stitches. I just made it a little bit shorter. But just so you know, for the women's adult size, I am going to be continuing this until my hat, the length, measures 11 inches from the bottom of our needles, so like the start of our stitches, right here, to the bottom. Okay? I can do some check-ins, make sure we're going all right, but pretty much just gonna make a long tube. After you've got a few rows in, this is what your work should be looking like. These are the knit stitches here, and this is the purl stitches here. It's going to be very stretchy, and yeah, just keep working. Alright guys, so I've been working on my hat for a little while now. I just want to check in and make sure yours is looking very similar to mine. We are going to be doing this until it is 11.5 inches long. Go ahead and measure mine. And I'm about 7 3/4, but just so you know, I am measuring from the bottom of my needle right here and all the way down to the end. We're not stretching it or anything, I'm just laying it down and taking the measurement. Alright guys, so I have been knitting on this for a while now. So measuring from the bottom of my needles all the way straight down to the bottom of my hat, that is 11.5 inches there. So this is where I'm going to stop adding to the length. Just in case you are wondering, this ended up being 45 rows long. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom you in, and we are going to close up the top of our hat. Okay, so on our first row, we're going to start with a decrease. This is going to be a slip slip knit. So I'm going to slip the first stitch. I'm going to slip the second stitch. and then I'm going to knit these two together. So I'm just going to take my needle that's in my left hand, I'm going to put it through the two hoops and bring it out on the front side. Now that I have both of my stitches on my needles, I'm going to wrap my yarn and then I'm going to knit through both of them. The reason that we do slip, slip, knit instead of just a knit two together is because I want this stitch to be in the front. See how this one is in front of that one? This one is behind, this one is in front. If you did a knit two together, the other one would be in front, so that's why we're doing a slip, slip, knit. And then the next two stitches I'm going to do a knit one regular, purl one regular, and then the pattern is going to just repeat all the way around. So it's going to be slip, slip, knit, knit one, purl one, slip, slip, knit, knit one, purl one. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So next I'm just going to do another slip, slip, knit. I'm going to slip this one, slip this one, put them both on my needles, and wrap my yarn and put a knit stitch through there. Knit one, purl one, slip, slip, knit. Okay. Knit one, purl one, slip, slip, knit. That's just going to go all the way around. So at the end of your round, you should be ending with just the regular knit and the regular purl, and then we are at the start of our next round. The second row, while shaping the crown, is going to be pretty similar. We're going to start with a decrease, which is another slip, slip, knit. So I'll slip the first stitch, slip the second stitch, take the needle in my left hand, and go through both of the stitches and come out the front side like that. Wrap my yarn and knit through both of them, and then after that I'm going to do a purl stitch right on top of this purl stitch right there, and then that is going to be our repeat around. So it's going to be slip, slip, knit, purl one, slip, slip, knit, purl one, repeat around. So the next one I'll slip two, knit through both of them, purl one, slip, slip, knit, whoop, purl one, slip, slip, knit, purl one, and this will just continue all the way back to the beginning. Alright, and there's the end of my row. I ended on a purl stitch. I'm going to start my next row with a decrease. It's going to be another slip, slip, knit. Like that. And this is just going to repeat all the way around. So every stitch you go to is going to be slip, slip, knit, okay? Alright, so that was my last stitch in the round. And at this point we're going to stop and we're going to need our tapestry needle and our scissors. So I'll take my yarn and I'll pull out like, I don't know, 10 inches or so, and I'll cut that off. And then I'm going to thread both of my yarns through my needle. And from here we're going to close off the top of our hat. So your yarn is coming out of this stitch, so we are going to start pulling them off at the next stitch. So just take your needle and go straight through the stitch and pull it off of your needles. And then every like few stitches I'll just pull my needle through like this. Or you can do it every stitch if you want, just whatever. And just do this all the way around until you get back to the beginning. Okay, that was my last one right there. I'm gonna pull through, and then I'm gonna go all the way around just one more time. See how this is the last stitch that we went through, and then I'm gonna go over here, go back through. It's my first stitch, second one. I'm just gonna go all the way around one more time. Alright, now that we've done that, you can go ahead and tighten that up. Pull it all the way until the hole is completely closed. And this is about what it should be looking like. So at this point, I'll just take my needle and put my yarn to the inside. And now you can weave them in however you need. I usually just go back and forth under some of the surrounding threads like this. And then I really like using double stranded yarn because they're so easy to tie off. All I've got to do is take one of my yarns out of my needle, keep the other one on, and then take this one that's on your needle and run it under a couple nearby threads. And then you just tie those two ends together. Once that is pretty secure, I just go ahead and cut the ends off, and you can turn your hat right side out. Now the only end we have left to weave in is this one where we started our hat. So I'll put those two ends on my needle. Now I want to connect my round. See how there's kind of a gap here? This is where we started, and this is where we finished. I'm going to go through this little like knot looking area. I'm going to put my yarn through there. And then I'll start weaving it in. We are going to weave this in towards the front because whenever you fold up your hat, the weaved in end will be technically on the back after it's folded up. So I'm just going to go around some of these. Just maybe like 2 inches. And then I'm going to do the same thing that we did at the top. I'm going to take out one of my pieces of yarn, and then I will wrap it around some nearby yarn, and then I'll tie those 2 ends together. So I'm going to snip that off. So now from here I just fold up the bottom of the hat, and you have your beanie. And that's it. I mean, this is actually really simple. It's definitely warm because it's double stranded, and it's also a quick project because we're using big needles and double stranding the yarn. So all around, this is just like one of my favorite quick things to make during the winter time. I really hope that you guys liked it. Thanks for watching this tutorial. If you make this, then I would love to see it. Please tag me anywhere you're posting. If you like this tutorial, please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up, and if you would like me to make any more tutorials, leave your suggestions in the comments below. Bye!